train people to walk on the sand where falling
Oh.
doesn't have consequences.
Oh.
And I also train people to look at the waves because the waves are never boring when you
No.
look at a distance.
Yes.
And the sky is never boring, and
No.
the clouds are never
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah.
And we should start to love the nature that is
Yes.
around us.
I think we've
Yeah.
just fallen in love with you and everything you teach.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to encourage everyone to watch this replay again and again and look at Mayor's website. Have a look at that special promotion he is offering us, and we'll be back very soon for the Circle of 12. We're going to take a break for 10 minutes and we'll see you soon.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back from your break. I'm still reeling with excitement over our guest. I say that quite often, and I mean it. This one was extra special, as many of them are, but I related to this one, I think, a little more because of the eyesight issue, which, of course, I have experienced. And it's so great to have my ear.
Absolutely. I hope everyone was practicing their, the palm technique where you just, how simple, right?
It is.
Rub your hands together, loosen them up and cover your eyes. And I love that the exercise can be done with anything, but your hands have electricity, is what he said. Mm-hmm. So I love that.
I've actually also experienced this phenomenon he talked about, and many of you have, and it's probably very basic vision stuff, is where you're on your computer for hours and hours, and you suddenly go outside and look in the distance. Sometimes it's fuzzy, and because your muscles have then just been locked in that one place so much. And so the idea of going outside on a regular basis just to exercise your eyes to infinity and coming back, it just makes total sense.
Yes.
And yet we're going, wow, that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Take somebody like this who has done this for himself and actually healed his eyesight and all to remind us of the practicalness of these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's now move to the Circle of 12 meditation or statements of intent. And I invite you to close your beautiful eyes, relax into this preparation of the Circle of 12. I will be saying statements of intent 3 times, and you are invited to say them silently or aloud. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life.
That, and I want to know something, Lee. And you say, what is it? He says, how do you do it? How do you stay peaceful and be joyful? And we know you're not pretending through all of these things. We see you're different. Bingo. Have you seen what you've done? Light shows itself. When you have relationships that are souring or have gone bad, there's a temptation to say, I failed. To some of you, you'll say, I failed again. Some of you have blamed yourself over and over and said, well, I really can't hold on to a relation because there's something wrong with me. Introspection is excellent, but I'm going to tell you, old soul, more than not, what has happened is you have levels of awakening. And what was fine in 1 year becomes less fine in another. It's almost like you're climbing a ladder of awareness and perhaps your partner is not. And there comes a time when when things which were acceptable before are not. So rather than having failed, dear ones, you've simply grown a little. How do you treat the one that you've left? That is the secret. No matter what they say, how do you treat them? Do you treat them friendly, with respect, no matter what? If they call you names for what they think you've done to them, by leaving them, for instance, or vice versa, can you hold on to the benevolence of what might have happened in a way that is wiser than anything they've seen before? Those around you will see this, and at some level, they will see this. This is you reflecting the face of God with family while you're on the earth. I just gave you a very profound message. I'd love to have you listen again to it because it answers some of the questions that are so difficult. What do I do? Finally, I'll say this. If you're in a relationship, dear ones, and this is the question so many have asked, and it's untenable, what do you do? And the answer is, indeed, there'll come a time when you may have to leave. And that is controversial because there are those who say, when you have a relationship and you've made the promises and all, you must stick it out. And the answer is, if you stick it out, in some cases, you make both miserable. There, I've said it. That's an answer to another question, which has not yet been put in the portal. Dear ones, you're here to reflect the face of God. You're here to hold the wisdom of the Creator. And so it is.
And I invite you to stay within the energy of that channel and imagine yourself stepping onto a white, fluffy cloud. And this white, fluffy cloud is slowly going to come closer and closer to our beautiful planet Gaia. And as you approach the tops of the mountains, we're going to step off that white, fluffy cloud onto the earth. Feel that grounding connection. Allow the energy of the earth to pull you back into your body. And bring your awareness back into the room. Open those beautiful eyes if you've had them closed. And this time I am so delighted that we are going to have an animal communicator joining us for this next section of the program. And her name is Penelope Smith. And Penelope, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we are so honoured to have you joining us today. And I want to just tell people about you. And in fact, Lee, you want to tell us.
Not just an animal communicator. She is one of the pioneers of the whole thing. Penelope Smith, a revered founding animal communicator, and the whole idea of the power of communication. She's a pioneer and author of the classic books in the field. You might have heard some of these: Animal Talk, When Animals Speak, and Animals in Spirit. She's also the editor of Species Link magazine. A legendary teacher she is. Since the 70s, she's helped launch the careers of numerous professional animal communicators.
Now, communicating with animals telepathically throughout her life, Penelope actually discovered in 1971 that animals could be relieved of the emotional traumas and other problems through the same counselling techniques that's helped humans. She has done years of training and has had experience in human counselling, nutrition, and holistic body energy balancing methods. But she's also done research into animal nutrition, anatomy, behaviour. Plus, she's experienced first-hand education from the thousands of animals she has contacted.
For over 40 years, Penelope has been the founding pioneer for the field whose name she originated. Are you ready? That would be interspecies telepathic communication. She's become the hub for decades of the growing community of animal communication and communicators. Penelope feels that the sacred connection we make through telepathic communication with other species, are you ready, is essential for human wholeness. I believe that. I really do. She believes that everyone is born with the power to communicate with other species, and that although it might have been lost for some people for a long time, it can be regained for the benefit of all beings on the planet. Penelope, welcome to the show. This is everyone loves animals, and this is great to have you as a pioneer.
Thank you so much.
Why don't we just start with you? I would love to know how this happened first, even before we talk about the animals. Like, when did you discover this, and, what's the story there?
Yes, I always communicated with animals. I was always aware that animals were like me. I didn't let it go. Unlike most humans, I really treasured from when I was a little girl. I remember sitting in the park near my house and just asking the little birds and little animals to come to me, not to be afraid that I wouldn't hurt them and that I just wanted to be with them. And so little birds would land and little squirrels would come up and I would spend time communicating with them. And I just continued with whoever was in my area. I lived in a city. I lived in Chicago, and so I communicated to the urban animals, and there were many. And so when people told me this was my imagination, including my mother, telling me I had a very vivid imagination, I said, fine, you know what? I didn't say that to her, but to myself. I'm going to keep it to myself because I treasure the animals too much. Human relationships were not so easy. My parents were abusive. And I just decided that I would keep it to myself. I found out very early on that other children also made fun of me if I said anything about communicating with animals or communicating with spirits, because I was also aware of the spiritual realm. And so I just learned to keep it to myself. And I never lost it. Of course, I never thought that I would be, I never thought, well, I'm going to create a profession called animal communicator. But as I became I always wanted to help people to remember who they were, to be aware of themselves as spiritual beings. So I became a spiritual counselor for people. And it just moved to animals when I found out that a particular animal who lived with me, I shared an apartment with other people, and a little cat had a problem, and I won't go into all the details. It's in my book, Animal Talk. It'll take up a lot of our time if I tell all the story, but it's a beautiful story, and I applied the counseling techniques that I used for people to heal traumas and to help them to live a better life. And it was an incredible change in her. I just communicated telepathically, which is telepathy is communicating across a distance, receiving thoughts, energies, intentions, feelings. And she changed enormously. And so then I just sort of on the side of my other profession, I continue to just help animals when people ask me for help. You know, people found out I could do this, and I, again, didn't charge for it for many years. I just continued to get practice, really, applying what I knew. And again, the telepathy was always easy for me, listening to animals, getting their thoughts, getting their feelings, getting across to them. So that was not a problem. And I just applied whatever I learned to help people, to heal, body healing, energy healing. I applied to animals and got incredible results. So that's how it all started. And so I never had to relearn, rediscover, as many people have to do, how to take the barriers away, how to open to telepathic communication, because it was always there for me.
So how exactly does an animal deliver a message to you?
Well, it comes across in the same way as our sense channels, only these are sort of a lighter vibration. Telepathy is a lighter vibration of our senses. I call them extended senses or higher vibration sensing. So depending on what channel is open to you, and all my channels are open, all my sense channels, extended sense channels, but you can get images. It can come across to you as sounds, as their thoughts translated into sound or words. It can come across as feelings, body feelings. You can get their pains, their sensations, how their body is moving. It can come across as intentions or knowing. Just, once you tune in, once you're connected, you just feel and know what the other being is feeling. And the animals confirm it by their behavior. They change. They become more cooperative. They do things for you. And
For some of you, because you'll go back and say, why? How do I deal with this? And the answer is, why do you have to deal with it? Experience it. Understand it. Feel it. Know it. It's that funny thing that Kryon has said. It says, when you get in your car, do you have to read the manual first of how the engine works, or do you just go? And the answer is, you just go. So let's go.
That's wonderful. I think let's now go into a meditation and a channel from Kryon. I invite you to just let go of everything that's been happening in your world up until this moment. Be fully present in this now moment. It's your time to be fully present within your body, and allow that beautiful body of yours to relax. If you're sitting in a chair, relax further into the chair. If you're lying down, relax further into that position. And I invite you to close your eyes as you relax further still, and imagine or sense that what you are sitting or lying in is so soft and fluffy and yet firm that it supports you. And as this firm, soft, fluffy support wraps around you, you realize that you have come onto a white, fluffy cloud. And so there's nothing to do now, because this cloud is going to gently lift you up as you are supported in a very firm, loving, gentle way. And the white fluffy cloud is now travelling up, gently gliding over the landscape and bringing you up, over and on top of the mountains. And from this position, you are above everything. Any issues, any problems you have, you are floating above all of it. And in this posture, in this space where we are above it all, we welcome the beautiful, loving messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the second of 4 messages, lessons, if you wish. Talk about how old souls on this planet deal with everyday life. Dealing with that which is in 3D, 4D. These are not lessons that talk about that which you have as gifts from your soul or metaphysical powers or gifts of any kind. This is about wisdom. How do you, as an old soul, with an awakening of an energy that knows things, that knows a wisdom perhaps which is higher than you had even a few years ago, an awareness of how things work. How do you then deal with a planet that is almost exactly as it was 100 years ago? The planet is starting to awaken. That is to say, things like integrity, the things that are in fairness, all of these kinds of transparency instead of deceit, all of these things are starting to shift. But the old soul has a grander shift going on. An old soul can see and feel immediately whether energy is appropriate or not. Things that you perhaps used to do or hear or participate now seeming to metaphorically slap you in the face because of their negativity or their inappropriateness in your life. That's what we speak of. Awakening is that which you are more sensitive, perhaps even, to the interactions around you of human beings or situations. And here you are awakening to a grander truth, understanding the divinity, seeing the light. Here you are becoming a more peaceful person. Here you are with understanding and knowledge about how to heal yourselves or a process of healing, or how to position yourselves for benevolent thinking or affirmation thinking, where you start to think that which you are and wish to be and control your life. All of that so elevated compared to those you're around. Last week, we talked about what do you do about that? And there are those who would say, well, obviously we run away and hide. And there would be those who have and those who do. It's pretty tough when you've got to go home and face the family and you go to work and you have colleagues and all that is. That sometimes it's not doable. And then we told you, don't do it. Because sequestering yourself with your wisdom and your life, sequestering yourself from the others, doesn't help one person on the planet. So again, we revisit the primary goal of a light worker. Why are you here? Among other things, it's to reflect the majesty of the creative source. Reflecting the face of God. That's one of the main reasons you are here. I have just answered a question. It is yet to be presented on the show. Question is, why are we here? And everyone wants a linear answer. Well, you're here to build healing centers, or you're here to do this or do that. Instead of a thing, what about a concept? You're here to shine light through everyday living, of how you deal with what everyone around you must also deal with. How do you do it in a way that's different? There are really two aspects to this. How do you do it so that you can have peace yourself, so you're not pretending? The other aspect is how do you do it so others can see it without offending them or pointing your finger at them or saying things you shouldn't say to keep them as friends. That has wisdom attached to it. Saying things properly, so not appearing to be better than anyone else, but appearing to have perhaps discovered something beautiful for yourself. This is always the answer we'll give. Instead of going to others and being evangelistic and saying, well, you ought to do what I do, and here's something you should know, and do this or else, and the things that you're used to hearing in spiritual systems that want to show you something better than you are. But you're not going to do that. It's almost de facto. It's almost that which is anyway. And that is to say, when they look at you, they're going to see balance and peace and joy. We said this last time, when you're in a circle of those who are gossiping and complaining and negative, and you say very little, and they turn to you and say, well, you're not saying anything, and you can say, I just love being with you, and you're my good friends, and I love you very much, and I've just found something beautiful for myself, and then you don't even have to say any more, and they may ask you what it is, then you get a chance to say what you think. So it's not an evangelistic approach at all. Or is it? Dear ones, I'll tell you something. Humanity is attracted more and more to light. More and more. There are those who say, if I could just get off the merry-go-round, as they say, or the rat race, which they say, of life. And that's how they see it. They go around every single day. They do certain things every single day. And then when they get together, they complain about it. And that becomes life. You've gotten off the merry-go-round. And so here you are as a light worker, an old soul who has an awakening going on, is starting to realize that you can create and co-create peace in your life. This one's about family, the hardest one that we're going to give you. This is the most difficult. And the difficulty is this. You're dealing with two aspects that are not present in everyday life when you simply walk around with people. Two aspects. Number one, blood family. That will be the relations you have. Blood family. They all have something in common with you. When you reincarnated, and some of you reincarnated into this family, there were no accidents. Your mom and your dad at some level knew on the other side of the veil you were coming. Or you agreed with them on the other side of the veil, yes, I'll come in. And some of you will say, no, that you've gone too far, Kryon. I'm not going to go there with you because I was an abused child. I would never have said I'm going to come in to be abused. Yes, you did. The reason? Because you were an old soul and they were not. They were just beginning perhaps, and you have come in to help them. Does this make sense to you? You eventually are their teacher by how you now react. Some will say, well, they're gone, and so it makes no difference. Oh, yes, it does. It's how you react to what happened to you from them to others. How do others see your reaction as an abused child? Do you understand this? What wisdom can you then push forward so others can say, wow, I have never heard anyone say those kinds of things who went through that. These are the kinds of things we talk about. Family is the hardest. The second part of family would be the ones you choose. You choose to be with them, to partner with them, to marry them or not, but to be with them. That's the second. There are no accidents of who you meet and who you're with. There are none. You may say, well, yes, I've had a couple of accidents already. And the answer to this is you went through phases of life for them and for you. You both learned things from certain kinds of relationships. It's tough to go home in the holidays for some of you, very tough, because you hold within you something that's so different than they've ever seen before that many of them actually make fun of you. What's your reaction to that? Do you sulk? Do you go off into the corner? When they call you names at all, do you cry a little? Or do you let it bounce off of you in a way that you know is correct? Names are just names. You are looking at their dysfunction. Anytime a family member turns to you, makes fun of you, you can see it like they're still in black and white, you're in color. So what do? You don't admonish them. You don't tell them they're fools. Instead, you hold that color to yourself and show it to them by being peaceful with it, by smiling. There is such a thing that is called karma. You've dropped yours, others have not. Perhaps they are there to be the sand in your oyster, as they say, or to poke you a little. Did you notice something? That if you're not pokeable, if you do not react to a family who is pushing your buttons, if you don't react to them, they stop pushing. Did you notice that? You're no fun anymore. And then they start wondering, at some level, why? My partner has experienced this. When he'll go to a place where there's fun being poked at him for what he believes, and everyone will laugh and all, and then later one will come around and say, we're sorry we did that, I'm sorry I did that, and I want to know something, Lee. And you say, what is it? He says, how do you do it? How do you stay peaceful? Greetings and welcome everyone to the Healing Wednesdays and the Circle of 12. I'm Lee Carroll.
I'm Monica Morani.
For those of you joining us for the first time, and even if you're not for the first time, Healing Wednesdays is a time when we come together every single week of the year. We have special guests, questions and answers, discussions, meditations, and channeling. And this particular week, we have Penelope Smith, a pioneer animal communicator. You're going to love her. That's coming up in just a bit. This is a membership meeting. It's a little different than the free ones. Actually, it's quite a bit different. Members, did you know, if you haven't been to the portal or you think the portal is just to watch the show, did you know something? There's an audio of every single show, a separate audio, just for those who wish to listen or those who perhaps can't do anything but listen because your internet is not strong enough. There's an index created by Monica. The index is every single show, what happened. You can refresh your mind. You can go to the index and see perhaps what you've missed if you haven't seen the shows before, and then go and find them. Talking about finding them, replays. They're all available and they will always be available. There's no time limit at all. If you're a member, you can find everything we have done. And of course, the shows multiply and they get more and more of them. There'll be a time, I'm sure, where there'll be years worth of these kinds of programs. And so the library grows and grows. Let me just tell you, as I always do, don't be frustrated with the stream. The live stream with chat requires a little more power for the internet. So if it's marginal and it cuts and off and go and the audio is all messed up, please don't be frustrated. Just turn it off and hit the replay, because that happens in about an hour and a half. You'll see the replay after this show or tomorrow. So please don't be frustrated. Okay, now we do something very special.
So we have the question and answers section, and you can find a place to submit a question in your portal, or you can go to cryonmasters.com/questions. Here's our rules. Very simple. Ask a question others may be interested in. Have your questions so that others can benefit. So no personal questions, and make them as short and concise as you can. Instead of giving us a whole story and us wondering, is there a question in there? Please make sure we know exactly what your question is. So here is the first question that we want to discuss. It comes from Jonas, who's from Bavaria in Germany. What is co-creating really about? And what is the difference between co-creation and creating as it's commonly defined?
He asked, what is creating all about? That's great. It really is good, because if you are new to the concepts of what we are doing at all, we talk about creating. We create our own reality. We create our own healing. And people would ask, what truly is that? This is a process, you might say, but I'll say it is our right. It is a gift, and it is controversial. Most of the planet, honestly, is taught that if you want something that's beyond what I would say most humanity is used to, you got to go ask for it. Sometimes you got to be down on your knees. If you want a healing, you're going to go beg for it. Literally, this is what we've been told. The higher power will grant you this, will grant you that. We have always taught about God inside, and that is to say, we have divinity in us because we teach, and so do so many of those on the planet, for instance, even those who have the original ideas of spirituality, that the Creator created us in a way that there is something bigger than just the human on the planet as an animal. We have a soul. And if that soul is eternal, which we believe, as so many others believe, and come and go, and all this, it is bigger than us, and yet it is us. Bottom line, our soul is so powerful to tap into it. We can do the kinds of things the masters on this planet said we could do and showed us we could do. We can create healing. We can create that which is our own reality. What does that mean? We have taught this over and over. It doesn't mean that you're going to manifest, let's say, a car or that. It means this, that you get a sense of where the pitfalls are, or the right or wrong, or the yeses or the nos in regular life, so that you can go and manipulate that which you will call regular life, and you'll come out with a lot fewer problems, a longer life. You are creating a reality for yourself, and we believe you can do that. That's been the teaching all along, but more. You can create and design, if you wish, a healing for yourself. Now, why is it called co-creation? We believe, and we have taught, and others have too, you're not alone. In your soul, in your life, in your body, there's multidimensionality, which includes your soul, and that means that part of that which in other, I would say, belief systems you're begging for is in you, and that is that divine part. The divine part that can change physics with consciousness. All of that is part of you. So when you create something, you're creating it together with the divine part of you. You might even say you're creating it with Spirit, with God. This is what we believe we always have. But there's not just a belief there. There is validation. And this is why we're doing this. Is because co-creation, we can see it work. I have seen it work. I use it almost every day. Monica and I use it for life. We expect good things. We want and see benevolence in our life. We have the affirmations of it in our health, in our healing, and we are constantly co-creating these things. I'm sorry I'm spending so much time on the answer to this question, but this is the core truth of what we teach. And this is a life changer. If you're watching this show, and it's the first time you've heard this, you are not a victim of the planet. You have so much you can do to go around that which people look at you and say, well, I'm sorry for you because you're stuck. And you're not. This is what we teach, and I want to thank Jonas so much from Bavaria for asking that profound question.
Wonderful answer, Lee. And our next question comes from Kathy. Kathy is from Michigan in the US. And this is what Kathy's saying. Sometimes when I go to bed at night, I like to go into the circle of 12. Goodness, who doesn't? I love you already, Kathy. She's asking, is it okay if I go right into the theatre in the round? Because that's where I have the best ability to visualise. What a beautiful question, Lee.
Kathy opens the door to an explanation. And I hope everybody's listening. Everything that we are doing with the circle of 12 and all the processes, the procedures, the visualizations, and the metaphor, the bridge, the theater, the chair, everything that Kryon has set up there means something else. Now, that gives you permission to change it all. You can do whatever you wish to create that same scenario, which is walking into the divine part of your own soul and experiencing healing or meeting those on the other side or any of the things that Kryon puts together every single week for you. I want you to understand and know it. And that is this. It means something else. These are not doctrines. They're not rules. The process and the procedure is not to be followed a certain way every single time. You are free to create your own method, your own path that suits you best. You go right to the theater. You want something else except for a theater? What if it's something that means something more to you than that theater? You go there. You can skip the bridge. You can do all that. In fact, Kryon says there'll come a day when that's what everyone will do. It'll be automatic. You simply go there. There is no bridge. There is no visualization. And that's where we're going. And that is why this new process and procedure in the Circle of 12 is so important to understand that it's a beginning of a new process, not new to some metaphysicians, but new to the family of old souls. It's a bigger thing than anybody thought they could do, going right into that soul part of themselves. So, answer to your question, Kathy, do what is comfortable for you. And that will be just the same as the best Circle of 12 we do.
I love it. And I also feel that whenever we are going into that Circle of 12 visualization, however it works for us, we're all collecting together in a morphic field.
Yes, we are.
And we're right there in your bedroom with you, Kathy. So I love that. And when I do it, you're in my bedroom with me. So
we feel the same way about that, and that is that we're all together. There's such a sameness of being seeing the same kind of thing but feeling it too.
So we're going to do one more question, and it comes from Maria from Limassol in Cyprus. Oh, I would love to visit your country one day, Maria. So she's saying that sometimes in the evening before I fall asleep, I pass through the bridge to the other side. And when I do this, I have very intense, very real-like dreams. It's like I live in a parallel world. And her question is this my imagination? Is it my subconscious? Or is my experience real? That's a great question.
Maria, your experience is real. Now, don't get too crazed with this, folks, because there have been esoteric, even scientific postulations. Are we living in a parallel universe? And I look around, are there multiple Lees? And I'm in one of those parallel universes. That's not what we're talking about. That's a whole nother question. We are talking about, are you living simultaneously in two worlds? And the answer is, yes, you are. I know this for a fact. We have practiced this. And yet you're not aware of two yous. Instead, you are aware that there are grander truths that you are practicing while you're on the planet. But truly, let me tell you what Kryon has said. We're all living in a parallel world. I want to read a little bit of what I prepared for this, or what Kryon has said. This is the real teaching. The real world is the one where you are on the other side of the veil, working the puzzle with yourself on earth. Did you hear that? The real world is the one on the other side of the veil. The other world is on this planet, trying to discover if any of the spiritual information about the real you is true or not. The veil separates those two parallel worlds. So you're very discernful, Maria, to even ask such a question. And in that place where you go at night, in those real-like dreams, that really is an exposure in your consciousness. When you go to sleep, anything is possible. You don't want linear anymore. You've got people you knew and are gone there, and you've got people that you know now are there and they don't even know each other. So that really is a multidimensional kind of a state when you dream. That's where this really shows itself, and it has to you. You are in a parallel world. Again, one is on the other side of the veil. It's your soul world. That's where we go on the circle of 12. And the other world is the 3D world, walking around with that which we have, everyday life, going to work with kids, the whole thing. And that's the beauty of this. Can we explain and show you through the circle of 12, all of you, that this is the reality of life? You are divine. And you're here for a little while. And while you are here, you can show others the divinity part of you. Walking in this parallel world has many names. Books, Walking in Two Worlds, one foot on one side of the other. Many books have been written about this kind of feeling. Because we are linear and our minds are linear, we can't feel the duality of that. We can't, or the doubleness. We can't feel that we're in both worlds walking along. The dreams show that. So the best we can do is understand it and know that at any time you want to, you can cross the bridge. So you can go back and forth if you want to. The two yous, if you want to call it that. That is how I feel. That is how we teach. A great question. Maybe a little more complicated for some of you, because you'll go back and say, why? How do I deal with this? And the answer is, why do you have to deal with it? Experience it. Understand.